My name is Marcia Robinson, and we are recording an oral history with Miss Eva Louise Polley as part of the Sweet MUMories Oral History Project to mark the 50th anniversary of the Miami University Middletown, Ohio campus. This interview is taking place on August 26, 2016 at Johnston Hall. Mrs. Polley, do I have your permission and consent to proceed with this interview?
Yes.
Miss?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. When did you first try to get an education at Miami University?
That was in the summer, early summer of 1947, when I was graduated from Franklin High School. And I didn't have any aspirations for college, but my friends decided I needed to go, and so we went to Miami to sign me up for the fall term. And I remember standing in the registrar's office an extremely long time, and that's because my friend was trying to convince them that I should stay in the dorm, but at that time we weren't allowed to stay in the dorms. We weren't welcome to stay in the dorms.
Since we're not on tape, who is we? We're not
Colored,
on video.
All minority girls,
Okay.
African Americans.
African Americans, thank you.
Back in those days, we were colored. And terms don't bother me.
Okay.
Okay. So after a while of discussion, the registrar finally said, well, you know, we do have a room near the furnace room. We could fix that up nice for her. And so then we decided that wasn't for me, so I didn't go. So I call that my little, a lesson that I would keep in my mind without holding a grudge. We were not supposed to hold grudges. So then in the early 60s, before the campus was built, Miami held classes at Middletown High School, and that's when I came back. And I stayed at MUM, then MUM was developed. And I just call that my big lesson in forgiveness, because if I'd held a grudge against Miami, I may never finish my education, because coming to MUM allowed me to keep my day job and pursue my degree.
At the high school location, what kind of classes did you take? Do you recall?
Mm-hmm. I remember we had English, and a New Testament. I took course in New Testament, English, zoology, and a math course, I think. Yeah.
Do you remember the conversations about opening a campus in Middletown?
I knew it was in the offing, but I wasn't paying that much attention. I really wasn't into further education that much at that point.
So, what changed your mind when the campus opened up?
Well, I don't remember, but there was a ruling that a teacher could hold a position with the understanding that you complete, was it two year certification, that's what it was. And so once you get into it, then I continued.
So prior to being at the Middletown campus, you were already a professional educator?
No, I did housework, and I thought it was absolutely wonderful. I had benefits. I had tickets to Miami University lecture series, and I had tickets to concerts, and I thought that was quite a nice deal.
Okay. Do you recall any of the performances or speakers that you went to see?
there was a history series that was in Middletown. Do you remember that? From the campus. And it was a membership performance. I don't remember any other things.
Okay.
That was a long time ago.
So once you enrolled at the Middletown campus, what do you recall about being a student here?
I loved it. It was nice. I liked most of the professors. I remember I had one, I'm not an art student, and I was taking an art course, and with, am I allowed to name the professor?
Yes.
With Mr. DeHoda. Remember Peter DeHoda? And so we were supposed to draw trees, and I said to my neighbor, I just can't get this tree right. I just can't get it right. And his voice boomed out, a true artist doesn't talk while she's painting. That I remembered.
Do you have other stories about student life here?
Oh, yeah, I have lots of stories. Oh, yes, I have one. I think that I'm sitting in a room with one of my music teachers, and we were supposed, as students, we were supposed to teach an icebreaker for children. And so some of the students had really cute games. But I decided that I would make up a game, so we divided the class into 2 teams facing one another. And then I explained that each member on a team would have the name of an animal. And I would use the same set of names for the opposite team. But in fact, and they were not to share the name of their animal with one another. But in fact, I gave everyone the same name on both teams. And so I'm standing in the middle and I tossed the ball, and when I called out rabbit, the rabbit from this team and this team were supposed to see who could get the ball. But since they were all rabbits, they all converged at one time in the middle, and I thought that was a great icebreaker. I thought it was kind of fun. And I think, that, and I forgot one thing. The instructor always took the place of the student teaching the game. And that's just a fun thing that I remember doing.
I'd like to continue with your education track. So can you tell us what happened? Your first class happened, and then did you finish the 2-year degree here, or what path did you take?
Oh, yes, I did. I was when I first began teaching in Franklin, it was actually at Carlisle, but it was not a state-approved class. So my friend invited me to come to Boston for the summer, and I took some special ed up there. And while I was there, our supervisor in Warren County contacted me and told me I could have a state-approved class, so that's when that began, 65.
So you went on with a major in
Elementary education.
Elementary education.
I chose not to do special ed because there were limits. And the limits were that in Ohio, if you were a special ed major, you didn't have to take math and reading, but you don't know, or I didn't know, that I wouldn't someday have a student who needed to have some reading skills or who was capable. So that's why I stayed in elementary ed instead of special ed.
Okay. Did you at any time attend other universities besides the university in Boston?
Oh, yes. I spent my summers hop skipping and jumping from campus to campus wherever a class was offered. So besides going to Boston University, I went to, was that Salem State? Salem State, I took reading there. And I was rather brave in those days because that reading course was only for graduate students. And I certainly was far from that because I hadn't received my degree yet, but I petitioned and got in. So I went there, and I've been to Mount St. Joe and UC and University of Toledo, Akron U, um, um, Ohio U.
Would you say that attending the Middletown campus was a gateway to a career for you?
Oh, indeed. Indeed, yes.
Now, my next question is about that teacher that you mentioned who's in the room with us right now. And that teacher's name is?
Christine Parker.
And you're still in the same room.
Yes, we're still in the same room.
So from the game about Rabbit and the icebreaker to doing this recording, what has happened over these years?
Now, first, do you by any chance remember teaching that course?
I don't particularly know,
But
there were lots of things
Yes.
that went on there.
now, I
in
forgot.
that room.
Now, could you repeat that question, please?
Sure. So the voice we just heard was from Miss Christina Parker, and we have another interview scheduled with her in just a few moments, so we can continue under that other recording. The question is, how is it that the two of you are still in the same room so many years later?
Oh, I think the liaison is Lois, because Lois was, yeah.
And so that would be Lois Jester,
Lois
who we
Justice.
also have an interview with, so
Yes.
we can cross-reference to that.
Yes, and she was on campus. That's how Lois and I met.
Okay. And so
She was my instructor.
there's this friendship that's been continuing over the years. Okay, thank you. Now, what I'd like to talk about is you were working full-time, taking classes at MUM. Were you unique in that situation when you were in school here at Middletown, as far as working and going to school?
No, that was the norm. I would say more than half of Franklin teachers were on campus at that time completing requirements while teaching.
So for those who are reading this transcript, at the time, what were the requirements to become a public school teacher?
Well, Lois can address that more than I can because I only tutored in public school in Franklin. I did, when I was retiring, I went on sick leave for a few months, and during that time I had friends in Franklin Junior High, and I did in-school tutoring for a math teacher and an English teacher, but Lois can tell you more about that.
Okay, we'll cross to that interview later. So where were you working?
Oh, Warren County School for, it's had so many names, but for Warren County School for the Mentally Retarded.
And the developmentally disabled?
Developmentally disabled, MRDD, yes.
And how many years did you work for Warren County?
28
28 years? And that began after you started school here in
here,
the 60s?
yes.
Okay.
63 or 64.
Okay. Are there other stories that you want to share with us?
No, I can't get started because I think that the music book I brought with me, music activities, I think I got it here in one of the special classes I took. But when I was a youngster, I had no musical aspirations. And so I had an aunt who was trying to get me ready to take piano lessons because that was a thing in the family. And I didn't want to, but we had a piano out in our barn because that piano had been in the 1913 flood and the water had gotten up to the keys, so they moved that piano out. So then when I came along, like a 10 or 11-year-old, my friends and my brother's friends would play in the barn, and the kids all played chopsticks. But my fingers never touched the keys because I figured if I played chopsticks or even anything else on the piano in the barn, I would have to take piano lessons in the house.
Oh,
So I didn't touch the piano. So then I came to Miami University and had to take 6 hours of music to teach elementary. And this was one of the books we had. And Chopsticks is in the book. So I learned it and I couldn't read any music, so when I learned in class to read the key of C, then I learned to play Chopsticks.
And that book is being deposited with the archives?
I don't think I
Or
can
a
give that
copy
up
of
yet.
it? May we? Okay. That would be fine, so it's not there.
Now, why am I keeping it?
We can make a digital copy so that there's
You
since
could
it
do
was a
that.
university textbook, and we can
Okay.
make a computer copy, but the original stays with you.
Mhm.
But we can talk about that after the
Okay.
interview. All right. Are there any other professors or students' stories that you would like to recall with us?
No, except Dr. Edwards taught art. I had to take 2 art classes. One was with DeHoda and one with Dr. Edwards. And Dr. Edwards was quite nice. But I didn't know at that time I had allergies, and I had a hacking cough. And one day in class, I coughed so much that Dr. Edwards said, "Would you please either do something to quell your cough or excuse yourself from the class?" And so I had to excuse myself from the class.
But even then, professors could see students as humans.
Yes, indeed.
And
And I couldn't get mad at that. Yeah.
okay. All right. If there's nothing else you want to record at this time,
No.
all right. Do we have your permission to discontinue the interview?
Yes.
Thank you very much.